If you're clicking, wondering what this is, thought we might just do some fun because, as you know, we did a review on Godzilla vs. Kong for subscribers who know, but of course we now have the new Godzilla Kong movie coming out, but I thought...
Only a few days away.
I thought it'd be quite fun to maybe dive into like the subject most people don't like to...
Very much so.
For you especially.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Where people say Godzilla movies don't need human characters, I vote the latter. I think they do. They do serve a purpose.
I wouldn't say they don't need human characters. They do need them, but they also need to make them decent.
Decent enough.
Yeah, not just cannon fodder that we don't give a damn about.
So that's why I put together on the weekend for you and us to do is this tier list, because I flipping love tier lists.
I don't mind a good tier list. I do watch a few tier lists. Never taken part in one, but...
They're very easy to do and they're just very time consuming.
Definitely.
Not to make, but to watch.
Yeah.
They're very easy. But I have made this on the Tier Maker website. You can go and see it. It is public, hopefully. I did try it before we started, didn't we?
It'll be uploaded to a channel anyway, so it's
yeah,
fine.
so they'll find it. But it is a list of all the human characters. So there's 22 in total, one of which is from the new Godzilla Kong, which we cannot do just yet.
Which
So
we know nothing about.
we know nothing about him yet, but judging from the looks of him,
It's just a simple character.
Trapper looks quite dapper, we'll say.
It does, yeah. It's Dan Stevenson. He's always great in weight.
So this one has 22 characters spanning from Godzilla 2014 all the way up until...
The new movie that's coming.
Exactly that. And there's quite a few, but I thought I'd narrow it down because there were some very foddery characters that I thought didn't need, but I thought I'd pick the ones that stood out the most. Definitely. And then we'll go from there. And as you can see, if you don't know what a tier list is before, there's different rankings there. Chug boy, chug. This is a long list.
Yeah.
So we have King of the Humans, which is the top level tier.
Top tier human characters.
Then underneath I put Great Companion, a very decent character. You don't need a good explanation as to why they're bad. They're just
there.
They're good for now. Good enough. You know what you're getting on the tin.
Yeah.
Nothing too special, nothing too drab. Forgettable is the ones
I
that...
think there's going to be plenty of them.
For you, we will have a decider.
Plenty of forgettable characters in my opinion, however.
And then right at the bottom is Doesn't Survive. These are the characters that we just both agree that...
There's a few characters in there that, that don't survive and...
They need to be under Godzilla's foot.
Yeah.
Basically.
Basically, in the best way to describe it.
So I thought...
Let's begin, shall we?
Well, we're going to do it in movie order. So I thought the first person...
I was going to say, we
first,
should definitely start with...
Joe Brody.
Forgot his name. That's how I remember.
Brian Cranston. For
that's all I knew. Was his name was Brian Cranston.
Some I know, some I'll need the Godzilla Wikipedia fan page for.
Yeah.
But
well, it's Brian Cranston. He doesn't really need much of an introduction, does he? Really, it's Brian Cranston, and he carried most of the film for the 10% of it that he was in.
Now this is peak Brian Cranston. This is 2014.
Well, he just come away from Breaking Bad, didn't he? So he was.
He was the
right up there.
He was the moneymaker, and to be in a Godzilla film, that's quite high tier in my book.
I think the reason I'm a bit more disappointed in his character is because of how underused he was. The trailers really made it seem like that, it was going to be focused all around him, his story with Godzilla and everything. And then, I don't know, about 3/4 of the way through the movie, the second we're introduced to our first monster, realistically, he's killed off.
1/3, I believe he
As soon as that Muto arrives and kills him off with a crane, that's it. And I was just like, oh. And I was so...
It was quite shocking.
Shocking. I was disappointed. I was so disappointed that they just killed him off like that. It's just like, now we've got to follow his son that no one really gives a crap about.
Well, most people would say he's top.
I'd definitely put him in top tier, just because it's Brian Cranston and he's one of the best actors.
I would incline to go with...
Great companion. I mean, yeah, he was a good companion for his son, wasn't he?
Best purely because when people bring up his character, they instantly go to his death.
Well, yeah,
and that's what I'm feeling is lacking when you want a King of the Humans.
He could have been king. He could have been king if they'd have left him in the film, but they didn't.
And when you talk about the film, that's the first thing you go to is his death. It's not the character. The character comes second.
Yeah.
And then things start to go from there. And then people start talking about how long Godzilla was in the movie for.
Pretty much.
Which is you every time I bring that movie up.
Yes. Very much so.
So, in short, we have to get him there. For my opinion's sake, he's a great companion.
I mean, yeah.
He's high up there, and the stakes with him are very high, especially because his motivation for it. He loses his wife in the first 2 minutes, and he's on a vendetta to find out
Why?
why
Yeah,
this
he
was
knows the
coming up.
government's covering up something, and he's prepared to, take care of it and as much as he
The
can.
precursor to Monarch.
Yeah, before
Yeah.
he gets unfortunately shut down.
Spoiler note for this video, I haven't actually watched the Monarch series yet. I am planning to. I am planning to watch that. I've heard that's very, very good.
I've heard it's okay.
I've got it at the ready, I just haven't had time. But I thought we're purely sticking with the movies, and this is a good start, I think.
Yeah.
So, let's just go to his son now.
I think we can stick him in Forgettable.
Forgettable.
What was his character motivation throughout the entire film apart from just survive?
Probably too... I think...
He comes back from war, and we're only introduced to him for about 5 minutes with his wife and his son.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, he's shipped off to go and see his dad, because his dad's obviously, they presume he's mental and everything.
He's trying to calm things down a bit.
And as soon as his dad dies, that's it. All he wants to do is just get right back to the mainland to try and find his wife. That's it. And just along the way, a few bits
I think
of
he
carnage
does.
happens.
I think he does carry on a bit with what his dad was going for, but it's that really dull military type persona.
I mean, for me, I couldn't even remember his name. Ford, that was it. Never
Ford
mind.
Brody.
Ford Brody.
Ford Brody with that.
Not nothing to say that I don't like Aaron Taylor-Johnson. I just don't think that...
He played it way too plain.
Too safe.
I think it was very safe.
Yeah.
So we've had the high and we've had the low. Are we both saying Forgettable here?
I'd say Forgettable.
I would say Forgettable.
I said it's just a simplistic motivation.
I would say it's about that high. I think
can't put him in the don't survive list. 'Cause he
Nah.
definitely survived.
he could have been good enough if I think he leaned more into what his dad was trying to push.
Yeah.
Because that bit where he dies and he sees the Muto, that's sort of like the realization for him that he has to put a lot of thought into going through with everything, with the military operations, with the resulting with Godzilla. It makes sense for him to be sort of like, I need to be the leader of this now.
Yeah. Had the director have given him more free range to act that leaderish role and try and be like, look, my dad has been trying to prove this for years. I thought he was a crackpot.
And again, this is Aaron Taylor-Johnson in 2014. He's coming off of Kick-Ass
Kick-Ass
2.
Yeah.
So both of them are still pretty relevant.
Yeah, no,
They're
exactly.
pretty high up in the stands, of course.
Yeah. But
We
I
go
just
from
think they could have done better with his character.
Ah, now Samuel.
Yes.
I believe we have our first S-tier character.
Good old Ken Watanabe.
Dr. Serizawa.
Yeah, I mean, once again...
I firmly stand by he is one of the top characters for these Monsterverse movies, which is a shame because he was only in 2. But the way how he comes about it...
Well, yeah, he's very much for Godzilla, isn't he? He's very much about, we need him, don't kill him, which, if you think about it realistically, is still kind of a silly idea, because who needs a skyscraper lizard walking around destroying things? No one, really. However,
As they will learn, Godzilla...
due to the Japanese connection, obviously, with Godzilla and himself, it makes sense, of course, that his character is obviously very Godzilla-oriented.
And his last name, Serizawa, is referring to the first...
The guy who made
Doctor
the hydrogen bomb.
in the 1954...
Oxygen Destroyer.
The 1954 version, as with another Dr. Serizawa, except he had an eye patch. And was a little bit insane himself.
Yeah, definitely like a cartoon villain.
And it's not even noting that, but he also had the strength connections with Godzilla. Like, he knows it. He knows it in his heart that he can be that sort of conservationist. Which sort of gets mentioned, which is mainly the main topic with King of the Monsters later on, but it has disastrous effects.
Oh, yeah.
And his send-off. Spoiler if you haven't seen it, but his send-off is beautiful.
It's nice.
It is beautiful.
It's nice, yeah. He walks in and...
It pisses off Godzilla to no end because it blows up his house, but
technically speaking, it does Godzilla a favour, doesn't it? Because
it does him a favour.
it
But
really, like, overcharges him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, right, let's get back into the fight then."
and the score with Bear McCreary when he goes, I firmly stand Dr. Serizawa, high tier King of the Humans character.
Yeah, I like him because once again, for me, he's Ken Watanabe, superb actor.
You know damn well if he lived past King of the Monsters and was in Godzilla vs. Kong, you know they would have used "let them fight" again.
Oh yeah,
They would have let him say that again.
they'd have brought it back for some cheesy one-liner, wouldn't they?
And it's like, it's him, why not? It's fine, it's there. Now, Kong Skull Island, my favourite of the Monsterverse so far. We have our different ratings.
I like it, I just don't think it's anything special. The only thing I really enjoyed about it is the fact that for me it was a different take on Kong. Because in every single film you ever see him in, he's infatuated with a girl. He chases her around throughout the entire film to a point where once he's captured, he ends up climbing on the Empire State Building, getting shot, all for a girl. Whereas in Kong Skull Island, there's none of that. Okay, yeah, there's hints of it with Brie Larson's character when he saves her at the very end from drowning or whatever,
and he's very young in this.
Yeah, the whole focus of the film is just how, first you get to see how big, strong and powerful he is. You've got a military might of helicopters shooting at him.
I never got why people couldn't understand why Kong was so young in this. I'm like,
well, they did explain. It's 1973.
Yeah, I was just like, people didn't catch on to that apparently.
I
don't know why.
Well, it was even explained in the film. He even said he's an adolescent. He's still growing.
But anyway, we got with the first character here who comes up through, who's one of my favourite actors ever. John Goodman as
Bill Randa.
Bill Randa, the guy who's basically the Alex Jones of the 70s. Pushing through the Hollow Earth theory, but of course he has a little bit more persuasion in the government at that point.
Well, yeah, and obviously I have seen, once again, spoiler alerts, I have seen obviously the Monarch bits and pieces that obviously his research obviously got found after he was on Skull Island and he dropped it into the ocean to be discovered, and obviously he was also aboard the Navy ship that was attacked.
He was spurred on by that.
By the Ion Dragon. So he obviously firmly believed that these creatures existed, and he's done everything he can to prove that he's not insane.
And he recruited another scientist whose name I forget, but I do know that he is also in the comics as well. But some of these characters do appear in the comics, but we're not including them. This is still just for the movies.
And I've got no interest in reading the comics.
But
I'd put it as good enough.
I would say good enough as well, because he has such good chemistry with Samuel L. Jackson as Packard.
Yeah.
There's two different ranges there. One's trying to avenge everything, while the other is trying to prove everything.
Yeah.
And you have a big clash there of like who wants to do what. On an island, you don't know what's going on.
I think it would have been better if he would have shown more of the emotion on that side at the beginning of the film, because you get the sense throughout the film, especially once they actually land on the island, that he's been trying so desperately hard
to get this,
to get people over there to be like, yes, right, finally, let's get this operation up and running so I can prove what I'm trying to say.
He has that right to the point where they start doing the expedition. Then he becomes a bit fodder in the background, because he doesn't really fight back.
His theory's proved by that point. He's proved to everybody that monsters exist, and now it's just a case of, right, now we're in the shit, how do we get out of it?
I mean, he's taking pictures, but that's pretty much Brie Larson's character, because she is
exactly
the journalist character, which sort of
so you've got two conflicting characters already. They're all there for their specific purposes. The military men are there to escort what they were supposed to escort.
He serves his purpose and then goes out like a chump. I found his death so disappointing.
Well, yeah, he just gets eaten, doesn't he? That's it. Job done, he's eaten.
And of all things, his camera gives him away.
Yeah.
To the skull crawlers, which are themselves. So, I love John Goodman.
I love John Goodman, but I say his character's good enough.
I'd say that is good enough too. Now we've got Tom Hiddleston's character, the mercenary for hire.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I'd say he's good enough. I mean, all he's really there to do is just to...
He's the leader type.
He's a tracker, that's all he is, isn't he?
He's a very good tracker.
His whole character motivation is literally just to be, if anything goes sideways, this is the guy we need to get us through the jungle, to get us back to where we need to be. And obviously, that's exactly what happens. Shit went sideways, and his character arc kicks in the second it all goes tits up.
Yeah.
All he's there to do is just to lead us back.
They make him look really cool in like that opening scene when he's... Where does Packard find him? In Hong Kong, in the nightclub.
He's in a bar. Which in my personal opinion, I thought that whole scene was ridiculous, because, like, all he is a tracker. He's a tracker. He's a tracker in the jungle, and he's going to be really good at finding your way out of situations. What part of being in a bar, playing pool, getting in a stupid little fight scene with a bunch of people, to a point where he actually bats a freaking
with the pool cue,
the ball back at an opponent, which is something that you superhuman level could be able to do. they set him up to be cooler than what his character actually is. Just because it's Tom Hiddleston, that's it. They were riding off the fact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is doing so well.
Yeah.
And they decided, look, let's bring in all these Marvel characters. Like, let's bring in Loki. Let's bring in Captain Marvel. Let's bring in Nick Fury. Do you know what I mean? They're all just Marvel characters. That's all they are.
I mean, maybe he was tracking women.
If he was doing it, in a very creepy way. But yeah, I think once again, I'm almost tempted to put him in forgettable, because
I think
if it wasn't played by Tom Hiddleston,
I think it just sort of like
anyone says that movie and they say, oh yeah, Tom Hiddleston was in that. That's the only reason his character's not forgettable. Tom Hiddleston's playing.
Yeah, and with Aaron Taylor Johnson, it has that sort of forgettable factor.
Yeah.
I think we both go good enough with that.
His character is only there for one purpose, and it only kicks in when shit hits the fan.
Exactly. Now, Packard. Samuel L. Jackson.
That's-
Colonel Packard.
I mean, you can argue that obviously Samuel Jackson always brings charisma to every role that he's ever in. But once again, if you look at his motivation, once again, it is almost a little bit ridiculous in the fact that he believes that he believes that him and his little army are going to take down a freaking 100-foot gorilla.
I think, but that's what I liked about Kong Skull Island, because it was playing into the Vietnam situation. Of course, it's 1973. Nixon at the beginning, they see it on the TV that he's pulling troops out of Vietnam. Packard is obviously relenting because he's got all these medals to show, and it's meant nothing because the Vietnam War is superly unpopular at this point.
Yeah, and obviously once you've lived through war, sometimes the desire to continue fighting is always there. However, is it really that strong that you want to take on a gorilla that's 100 times your size?
I mean, if you want to go from like beating communist Vietnam and sticking it to the Russians at that time to then going to, I have found a massive 37-foot tall gorilla along with other monsters that are on this island that nobody knew about, and you come back as the victor, it kind of boosts your reputation. It's like the old expeditions that they found.
Yeah.
Lots of expedition people would have that. And for him to be also say, like, I'm in the military as well, I lost a lot of my good men in that fight, it can sort of like, because you could see it when he's got Kong pinned down in that lake. You could see the expression on his face with delight that he is wanting this so badly.
Yeah, he's trying to prove that humans are the apex predators, which in some regards we are, if you take away our technological advances. But I don't know, I'm in 50-50 about it. Part of me says that if you see a fucking 100-foot gorilla that's just torn through your helicopters, killed half your men, and beaten the crap out of you, that your instincts would kick in to be like, yeah, I just want to get off this
In
island.
a way, it's kind of like Carl Denham. It's got a little bit of Carl Denham where he knows the risks.
And Carl Denham wants to show it off to the world.
He's desperate to show it off for that validation. And that's what I crave.
Packard just wants to kill it to avenge his men.
Also, I don't know if anybody watched this film. If you had watched this on the plane, please say, because I watched this on the plane coming back from Florida. And of course, they have to tone it down. They have to PG up some of the words.
Oh,
and the bit
good
where
thing I didn't watch it at the plane, then.
The bit where Brie Larson's character, this is when Kong is trapped in the lake. He's held down by the fire and everything. And Brie Larson goes, "The world is bigger than this."
Bitch, please.
Bitch, please. But in the plane version, you would have got, "Bobby, please." It's so ridiculous. I had to hold back laughter so loud on that fucking plane ride home because I was like, who the fuck's Bobby? No one's Bobby in this.
Where would we put him?
I think he's quite high up. I would say Great Companion. Or do you think he's a little bit higher than that?
No, I'd say he's a bit lower.
Lower?
I'm tempted to either put him in Great Companion or Good Enough.
Oh.
Just because it's Samuel L. Jackson.
I think it's not that it's just Samuel L. Jackson. I feel like his character, because it lasts the longest with most of like the original characters from the expedition on from the boat to the island, even though he obviously doesn't last. But
I'd say for Samuel L. Jackson's charisma in the role, I'd put him as Great Companion.
I mean,
he's definitely one of the stronger characters that you remember from the films.
I mean, that bit from the trailer where he's got Raglan at gunpoint saying like, "You're going to tell me everything I don't know, or I'm going to blow your head off."
Yeah.
Like, that is quality, like tension between the two. So
I am a cowboy.
I'm going to at least suggest Great Companion.
Yeah, I'd put him in Great Companion.
He's not above Joe Brody, but he is
no
just on that level with that. Now, next one is Brie Larson, the journalist.
Yeah.
Journalist character, who pretty much takes over from John Goodman's character with the camera, but she also gets a few good smart areas in that display where she understands Kong in that traditional femalish role where she understands what Kong's going through.
Yeah, I'd still put it as forgettable. What does she bring, apart from the fact that she brings a camera that John Goodman's already doing and then only just takes over once he dies?
It's true.
She brings nothing to the story. She brings there's not even a love interest between him, between her and Hiddleston.
They sort of understand each other.
That's it.
And that's it. But I would say, like,
cut her out of the film, you'd have the exact same movie.
True. I would
Completely
say
and utterly forgettable. She's just there for the sake of being there, because once again, Brie Larson had won an Oscar for one of her films. She was an Oscar-winning actress at that point, and the more high-tier list actors you've got in your film, the more chance you've got at it doing well.
Yeah, she does do stuff which is quite commendable in the film,
Especially
the flare gun scene, which is obviously that image there.
Yeah,
especially with the skull crawlers.
It makes total sense that a photographer lady that has no combat experience whatsoever is going to stand on a mountain miles away and shoot a flare straight into a giant lizard's eye.
I mean, they're pretty easy to fire. Don't go going that way on me.
I'm almost.
It's a flare gun. It doesn't need that much attention.
I think it would have made the film better if she just didn't survive.
You wanted to go out like John Goodman did, didn't you? With the skull crawlers.
Nah, she needs to be tail whipped like the other matey. I bet you hold the grenades and just got yeeted. I definitely put her in forgettable. She brings nothing to the film.
We don't have a little bit in between because I'm verging on good enough forgettable, but I'm thinking
not even good enough.
I think the next character sort of like shuns her a little bit more, because you'll see what I mean. So we're gonna put her in forgettable.
Very much forgettable.
But we have John C. Reilly.
He was fun.
I loved his character.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved his character, because not only did he have the beginning moments of the film where it was him and a Japanese soldier going at it during World War II. They both crashed, and they're on the island, and of course he survives. He survives the longest out of all of them.
He definitely has the more heartwarming story of the fact of, one, he learns to get on with a rival enemy in a dangerous situation, and they actually become good friends.
He learns from the natives which are on the island.
Yeah, he survives by doing that. And the fact that all he wants to do is he just wants to go home. He served his time.
And it's so good that it's so nice at the end when you see it in that old
100%.
footage.
He returns home.
You are as good as a hot dog and a beer on opening game night.
You feel sorry for him as well, because he had a son before he left. He's missed out on years of his life. He's a grown ass man now,
and he knows all about the skull crawlers. He knows all about the attention.
Had it not been for his character, none of the other characters would have had a clue what was going on.
They would not have a clue. I mean, trying to depict everything with the tribes people might have been something different to do.
But the fact that, and you can also see, he's also, because he hasn't had much human contact with these natives, even though they're there and they are human companions. They don't speak English. They don't speak how he speaks. So you can see a little bit of madness in him as well.
Yeah,
which makes sense with being trapped on an island for 28 years.
You can see the distinction with him because he has the medals and the armory and that.
Definitely.
And then mix it in with a little bit of the madcap persona of John C. Reilly, then you can have it. I'd say he's great.
Yeah,
I would say great. He's not up there.
He's not top tier, but he's great companion.
Is he higher than Packard?
No.
Are you saying he's just below? He's just below, but I think Packard has the strongest bit. Now, I added this character in purely because he has one of the funniest deaths out of the entire series.
He could definitely be put in. He should have survived, really. He had so much chilled back attitude in the entire film, considering his situation. But then, it's sad, really, because the one guy you think who doesn't give a damn, right at the end tries to do the one good thing to try and sacrifice himself to take that thing down.
And he's so chill about everything.
Exactly.
Even the initial fight with Kong with the helicopters. And he's just sat there with everything around him, and he's just eating a can of tuna.
Yeah,
and he was just like, "We did the best we could in any situation."
Yeah, he's just a chilled, level-headed guy who doesn't really care about the situation he's in.
Pretty numb to the war at this point, so anything at this point,
any emotion that he had has been shot out of him.
It was just that death of his.
Yeah,
his ultimate sacrifice, Skullcrawler, just whips him to the wall.
Yeah,
and explodes for good measure, but he does bring down the mountain enough to where it aids Kong in a bit.
Yeah.
So it weighs them down, but
once,
Should we put
I put him in Didn't Survive.
Yeah,
Once again, he's incredibly forgettable as well.
I had to add him in there just for a bit of light-hearted relief with that, because that was just unintentionally good.
There's a few characters in Kong Skull Island that didn't make it, to be fair.
No, there was a few. I was really like thinking whether or not to get more of like the soldiermen in, but a lot of them kind of meshed together where you could have put them as a group. But at the end,
all forgettable.
they're all like, well, they're basically the fodder you get in Call of Duty games.
Yeah,
where you have
they're
the people in the
NPCs.
background. The NPCs playing in the background, which don't have any effect.
Yeah.
They're just there for a good time and to be dissected by giant spiders.
Yeah.
Which is really good, by the way.
So
Now we
now
have
on to King of the Monsters now.
King of the Monsters, which now we go through. I can't remember who appears first.
It's the crazy lady. Can't remember her name.
Crazy,
the woman from The Conjuring.
Crazy lady who is the mother of Millie Bobby Brown and Carl Chandler,
Yeah.
who of course has the encapsulation of Mothra. They're studying more, but it's still under wraps. Monarch is still under wraps. This is the modern version of Monarch.
Yeah, but they're only on Outpost 63 at this point.
They're in Antarctic territory.
Well, when we first meet her, she's in the jungle.
She is in the jungle,
She's
and then
actually
we
in
move
Japan.
on to the Icelandic caps where King Ghidorah has been frozen.
Yeah.
And her vendetta to say like this is the way to
Stupid.
help the world in a way through that. I mean, it does come to fruition.
It's ridiculous.
It is more madcap, but we have a character who's 2 doors down, who is the spur of all this.
Once again, we'll talk about him. When
You
we get
do
to
need
him.
a cult leader to get in the crazies.
You
And
do.
She's verging on that, but she's also smart. Like, she knows what these can do, but she's done it in a way which serves his purpose to the point, of course, but he's just there to make money.
True.
But she's there for an actual purpose.
If you want to call it that, yeah.
It's a very out there purpose to where everybody.
I mean, I don't see how she's that smart that thinking releasing the Titans one by one is going to save the planet. in any
The
way, shape, or
purpose
form.
makes everybody go like,
Yeah.
"You dumb."
What are you doing? Just stop.
I mean, like, we've already got Godzilla. What do you want to do this for?
Her whole motivation throughout the entire film is just naff.
But it is memorable
For all the wrong reasons.
for all the wrong reasons.
I would, yeah.
I would have to say, what would you go by?
Forgettable.
You think forgettable?
I mean, you can't forget her role in the film and what she brings to it. However, I don't think she's not a good character.
She doesn't last long, so I would.
She lasts throughout the whole film, but she
I would
sacrificed herself at the end. But she's very forgettable. I wouldn't put her as a good character because her motivations are just absolute jack.
I mean, she could have done well. I mean,
She's a great companion.
her sacrifice at the end was decent.
Yeah,
Well, very good, decent.
the only good thing she did throughout the entire film was get killed.
All right, now we have our daughter of broadcast, Millie Bobby Brown.
Once again, what does she bring? Nothing.
She is again.
She's just there.
These movies tend to bring in a lot of really big stars.
Yeah, she's just there to cry.
She is there to cry, but of course we have to factor in Godzilla and Kong, because we have to factor in that she gets her own like strength to overpower her dad to say like, nah, screw you. I think you're taking too long. Well, I'm gonna go to this conspiracy guy who seems to know a few things, and I'm gonna ride it out with him.
That's in Godzilla vs Kong.
Oh, I know, but we're championing him because
Oh,
she's
you're
in 2
championing
films.
Oh yeah.
It's like with Serizawa. He's like the
true,
first
yeah.
Godzilla. We have to factor in, but all appearances.
Okay, well, in this film then, in King of the Monsters, I think she's incredibly forgettable. She doesn't bring anything to the table apart from the fact that she's just the daughter of the 2 main characters. That's it.
I do
and it's just
feel-
Millie Bobby Brown. It's another big name to chuck in the mixture.
I do feel like she does bring something. She does obviously spur on the group that she has with Godzilla vs Kong. In King of the Monsters, it's different.
Yeah,
It's King of the Monsters. She's trying to be the voice of reason for her mother, and by Godzilla vs Kong, she sort of takes on that mantle herself when her dad is obviously struggling. When Godzilla's
she has
causing
more
a
of
fuss.
she has a little bit more of a role in Godzilla vs Kong, but
For that reason alone, I can't say she's forgettable. Because she's the face of those 2 movies. Human-wise.
I suppose. I mean,
She does more in Godzilla vs Kong than she does in King of the Monsters. So we have to factor in the both. And of course, you can't say that that's not progression.
No, I if I had to do anything, then I'd put her in good enough.
We go good enough?
She definitely can't go as a great companion.
No, she's not. I would. No, she's not above Hiddleston, I don't think.
No way.
No,
Not a chance.
she gets there a little bit more. Now, Carl Chandler is a little bit forgettable again for me. The parents are both forgettable for me.
Well, they are. He's just one of those characters that, once again, because he knows a few things about animals,
he's
everything he says in the film has got to be correct.
He's
everyone
the boss.
everyone
boss
has
of Monarch.
Yeah, everything that he ever says or comes up with has always got to be the truth.
That's why I have to say Millie Bobby Brown is above him slightly, because he's failing basically, where his child is like, nah, I know where to go, I know what to do.
I mean, in King of the Monsters, he has a slightly better role because he's
he's a lot more.
He's the switched on character. He knows full well that his ex-wife's plan to release the Titans is completely stupid.
He's begging for his life for her to stop this, and
yeah,
he's not getting through to her.
I'd put him as a good companion only because he's got sense in the film to a certain extent. There are certain things that I think that just once again it's like, really.
I would say.
Then he Godzilla versus Kong. He's only in it for 2 scenes.
I would say he is forgettable, but he's not as forgettable as his wife.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to think about it, yeah, both of them will just...
He's not Brie Larson, and he's certainly not Aaron Taylor-Johnson's, because Aaron Taylor-Johnson's got the fact that he's riding off of Bryan Cranston enough to just make it through a movie, and we haven't seen his character since.
Which is why he became forgettable.
Very forgettable. So, would you agree with that?
Yeah.
That's better there. Now, I want to get for a character which I really wanted to die.
Oh, I would have loved it if he died.
Oh, this guy brought so...
He brought nothing.
He was so cringy.
Yeah,
His jokes didn't match with everything that was going on.
Well,
he felt like a character from the Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Well, the director actually said that his character is called Rick, and he based his character from Rick out of Rick and Morty. Which, if you think about it, how does that make any sense? He doesn't act like Rick. He doesn't talk like Rick. He doesn't even he's not even smart, for fuck's sake. So I don't understand where he got it.
Rick and Morty.
He even tries to dress him like Rick.
Rick and Morty is cringe enough to begin with. That's my opinion. I don't like the show. Therefore, Therefore, I did not like this character. So straight away, he is in the bin.
He should have died. Yeah, definitely.
It's just like, of all characters, why did you want to make it cheesy like Godzilla '98?
Yeah,
it's not the way to go with this.
Not a very good actor,
especially when the MonsterVerse is getting way better reviews than that film. Why would you go back to something that was so cheesy in the 90s?
Yeah, definitely.
We were way behind that. There's not much to go with him because he rarely, if anything, does do anything apart from
he brought nothing.
Just quips that he thought about. And then nothing else happened.
The next character from King of the Monsters is Alan Jonah.
Yes.
Charles Dance's character. Once again...
Riding off Game of Thrones.
He's forgettable. Because unfortunately, he's just typecast as all the villains now. He's always played villainous roles. As soon as I saw his character on the screen, I just thought, oh, here we are, another villainous role for you.
He's the terrorist organisation who knows he's going to get big money from releasing these kaijus.
Yeah.
And of course, like I said with you earlier, he is a ringleader, like a cultist sort of leader, which then brings Millie Bobby Brown's mother to do crazy stuff in the name for him, so he doesn't have to do the hard work.
Still forgettable.
Still forgettable, yeah. Only decent thing to remember is that he's the architect for the stuff that happens in Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
With relating to King Ghidorah, but I would say he's bottom of forgettable.
Definitely.
He's bottom of forgettable for me. Now, we are on to Godzilla versus Kong. Now, these characters I felt were very good. I would say some of them were very... Don't look at the screen like that.
I wouldn't go that far.
Half and half, I would say. I would say half.
Who on earth out of all this lot do you think's good?
Well, we shall go first.
I mean, he was alright for comic relief.
He is comic relief.
But he's just a...
And it'll be interesting to see what he does in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Same thing, I imagine.
I don't think it'd be the same thing.
I think it would just be another conspiracy theorist that's brought in because all of his theories in Godzilla vs. Kong were technically correct. So now he's brought in as the lead conspiracy theorist.
Well, the thing for me, he won't even be a conspiracy theorist anymore. He will be the theorist. He will be on the front lines with that. So I'm wondering how his character's going to be handling Kong in that situation.
I just think it was a little bit ridiculous to make a conspiracy theorist one of the centerpieces of the movie, considering the fact that there's a lot of conspiracy theory out there that is 100% incorrect, and this is just glorifying that whatever this guy is saying has to be true.
Yeah, and to the extent you can't really... I see it's not very believable when you have a conspiracy theorist brought in when there's giant freaking monsters. it's sort of like, are you really grasping at straws for a conspiracy? Obviously, his stuff that actually leads to Millie Bobby Brown joining him makes him, in that respect, a good character.
Yeah.
I would say, for comic relief, he definitely made me laugh more than this fucking guy. But
Yeah.
but I would say,
He put a few smiles on my face. There's nothing serious.
yeah, a few bickering. Should we go I would say bottom of good enough.
I was going to say just good enough.
He's good enough in that respect to where he could get stuff done to get Millie Bobby Brown to really have her courage to sort of like come through with some of the events happening for her to take charge. He's a spur on in that situation because, of course, she needed somebody to believe when her dad wasn't.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Because, of course, and it's very good, the dynamic where someone of Millie Bobby Brown's character is coming from the guy who's running the whole operation, but is still withholding information from her, even though she knows what the stakes are.
Yeah.
In Godzilla vs. Kong. And it takes a conspiracy theorist of all people to actually bring her in further to show off to her dad. So in that regard, I would say he's good enough. He's at the bottom of good enough.
Yeah.
Not
okay.
high on that order, but he is. Now I feel we've got another great companion. Paul G. I love her character. I love that she has that dynamic with Kong. The sign language and everything.
See, once again,
No, come on.
I just think once again that even that whole
Come on.
concept is just a bit. I mean, you're dealing with a creature that's so big that looking at a girl of her size, that's like us being friends with an ant.
I know, but you have that compassion. When you're that giant and you have that sort of compassion for said ant.
She's just the girl that's like I'm going to rip off what Critical Drinker says, and she is once again the girl that's the key to everything. She's the key to controlling where Kong goes and getting things moving, and it's just a terrible trope that needs to end.
I'd have to fight you with that because of course, we've had Kong Skull Island beforehand, and of course, Kong's origins signifies that he has been the strongest that of his species there's been. Of course, he's the last one.
Well, yeah,
But with Godzilla vs. Kong, he finds out he's not, and of course, with the new movie, we're going to find out how that works and how she plays with that.
I mean,
You're thinking now. I've rebutted you.
I'd still go down the path that, as it speaks for now, until I see what her role is in the new film, she's very forgettable. She's just a deaf girl that Kong likes. That's all I can say. She doesn't even say anything because she's deaf, bless her.
Bless her.
Well, she's deaf in real life, isn't she? So you can't really insult
I like my deaf people to speak.
Yeah. I wanted to say shit.
For me,
No, I just think, for now, until I've seen the new film, she's very forgettable.
I would have to disagree and say she's just in the middle of good enough. We haven't seen what she's doing with the new movie. So at this point with Kong Skull Island, I loved the stuff with Kong Skull Island because she's the reason how they can figure out how to get jumpstart Kong when he's down and all the things that he's thinking. She's an interpreter at the end of the day. When she has people interpreting for her, she can then interpret for Kong, and it's a nice, good role there.
She's an interesting bridgeway, I'll give you that.
Yeah, it sort of helps out what we needed to know with Kong when he's, of course, facing Godzilla, and then when he's teaming up with Godzilla.
You know, even listening to that sentence, I'm just thinking, a little girl is telling us what's going on with Kong.
Nah, we're not of that. Now, I can say this one's quite forgettable.
Very forgettable.
I was like,
She just studies Kong, that's it.
She studies Kong, and she obviously...
Every decision that she makes is overruled instantly.
Yes.
It's her original decision not to have Kong off the island, and she gets persuaded quite easily to get it off.
Yes.
Then she then says about not taking Kong to Hollow Earth, which once again is completely overruled again once Matey steps in to tell her something.
Yes. I can't disagree with you on that.
Yeah, everything that she says is contradictory. So how are you supposed to take this character seriously if everything that she's trying to explain to you, which is supposed to be quite serious stuff in the film, is immediately overruled and she's completely coached into doing something that she's against doing?
No, of course, she is in Godzilla Kong.
She might have a different character.
She might have a different character, but at the minute, I would say she's a bit... I'd say she's got a little bit more purpose than Carl Chandler. So I think like the two of them can sit plainly in the middle of both respects.
As long as she's in the forgettable list, that's all
She
right.
is in the forgettable list, but I'd say she's just a little bit more than what Carl Chandler does, because all Carl Chandler does in these movies is struggle to keep order while she's doing stuff.
Basically, yeah.
So there it goes on that saying. Now, I relate to this guy now.
You relate to him?
Yeah, author trying to get his books out. He has boxes of the stuff there. Can relate very highly with that.
I can't relate.
I
to
respect him with that. And of course, he has the theory of Hollow Earth, which of course spurs on people to get him into the fold to see if his theories are true. Character-wise, he's a bit bland.
Don't know how to say this. Shit.
Wow, you've been that far.
What? Once again, what does he bring?
He brings the theories, and that's it, I would say. But
He's just more on the side of, because he knows that the Hollow Earth exists, or he believes the Hollow Earth exists, and his brother was killed trying to get there.
He is bland, but he does sort of make up a little bit at the end, which I don't think should be a saving grace. But
No, because he somehow manages to reactivate King Kong's heart with a heave machine, obviously.
obviously he was learning it from Deaf Girl, but whose name I forget. But
Well, actually, he learned it from Walter Simmons' daughter. But she's not on the list.
no. But I feel like I would say, I'd have to say, just because that little spur at the end, he's just slightly above. Ooh.
Yeah,
Just slightly above.
just about.
Because all he has to do is just grimace.
Yeah.
And you can go from that. Now, this character, I wanted them to do so much more with another Serizawa.
He did die.
He did die,
I was about
but
to say should have, but he did.
he did die, but I felt like they could have done something with his dynamic because he was related to Serizawa.
Well, yeah, he was very wasted. There definitely should have been more scenes with him. But then again,
He should have gone. They should have gone for the route there. There's something about him.
It's a
that
difficult
He's not
one.
following his father's footsteps in.
But
so
the only reason
why?
this wasn't taken seriously is because obviously the director didn't want them to have didn't want serious human character moments in this. It was purely focused on Godzilla and Kong. That's it.
Yes.
And that's obviously what's going to be happening again in Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. It's not human centric. In fact, actually, I've heard that it's supposed to be about 60 minutes worth of kaiju on the screen. So I'm actually quite looking forward to
That could be the reason why there's not many characters added for this list.
Yeah, they just
Obviously,
brought back the
if
simple
there
ones.
is, somebody can make another one, but at the moment, he doesn't survive.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't survive, and he was weak anyway. He was just the son of the Great Serizawa, and that's it.
That puts him higher.
He obviously had a personal vendetta against Godzilla for his death. However, it was ridiculous, really, because his father chose to sacrifice himself to bring Godzilla back.
But it puts it. I think the name recognition alone puts him higher than him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Now we come to
Just
Millie's friend.
Forgettable. He's just there for the ride.
He's a very nerdy guy.
Can't even remember his name.
Can't remember his name. He's very reluctant with most things. It's only like right at the end with the computer stuff where he actually sort of does something. In that regard.
Even that is just ridiculous. He doesn't really do anything.
I mean, he says he's like a hacker type of person.
Yeah, he pirates movies online.
He pirates movies online, but then that sort of justifies him to somehow override a giant system made by a millionaire fortune.
We should have made a new tier there and just said it shouldn't have even been in the film.
Well, that's why Doesn't Survive there. He's another Doesn't Survive. I think he's just...
Waste of space.
He doesn't there. And he's not in the new movie, so he's just a little bit there, I would say.
Yeah.
Not in that regard. Now, final one, because we're leaving Trapper on this list, because of course the new movie isn't out
It's
yet.
not out
At the
yet.
time of recording this, the movie's not out yet.
No, not yet. Nearly there.
But finally, we come to the villain of Godzilla Kong.
And he's actually the first villain, in my opinion, that actually makes sense throughout any of this.
Anybody, because you had glimpses of it with this guy getting... You would think somebody is wanting to profit off of this, but then here comes a mogul, of all people, to do such a thing.
Yeah, he does essentially what the world should do to respond to a Titan threat, and instead of just allowing these things to
It's the most believable thing out of the movie.
yeah,
Someone
it's
trying
a
to profit out
It's
of
a
it.
military response. You've got a giant skyscraper lizard that could just destroy cities just by walking straight through them, and his exact response is to create a machine
Spoiler.
that can... Yeah, spoiler. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? But yeah, it's to create a machine to combat that. In fact, actually, that's the most sane thing I've heard out of any of the character motivations ever.
And it's
Let's
good
create
because-
something to help fight against this thing.
And it's good because it can take off the skull crawlers from Kong Skull Island, which
Well,
were quite tough
Yeah.
when Kong was a baby essentially.
A teenager.
But now he's getting bigger threats that
Yeah.
Mechagodzilla can handle in just
Theoretically,
like that.
Mechagodzilla realistically is humanity's saviour because Mechagodzilla was designed to take on any Titan threat there was. And without the aid of Godzilla and Kong together, he would have murked Godzilla and they would have murked Kong as well. It took them teaming up to take him down.
And it's very graceful how he goes. He gets killed by his own creation.
Killed by his own creation.
Mechagodzilla gets overridden through King Ghidorah's energy, swipes him. Swipes him out the window.
Yes, he does, yes. Oh yeah, of course he does, yeah.
Because poor Serizawa here can't handle it. Can't handle Ghidorah's energy. And that, of course,
Even saying that sentence.
leads it to Mechagodzilla to override itself.
Yeah.
I would say
In terms of story, character development,
makes sense.
he's up there for either a great companion because, like I said, he's got the most understandable motivation out of all of them. Titans are freaking walking around the earth destroying shit, so he has a perfect solution. Let's create a machine to combat this threat. It's a perfectly logical and reasonable response to whatever's going on.
Even though he's not being logical in front of Millie Bobby Brown and everybody else.
Well, no, because he's the villain of the film, and technically speaking, he should actually be one of the saviours.
Yes and no.
Realistically, but
But of course, when Prophet goes over what your instincts tell you, it's not really ideal.
I know because his profit would still technically be saving the planet
But
by creating a weapon to defend humanity against the Titans.
But that only comes in part when the Hollow Earth is discovered and Godzilla is acting weird, where all the other Titans are killed off.
Well, actually, technically speaking, Godzilla's acting weird because obviously his company's Mechagodzilla system is sending out a signal to lure Godzilla in to make him look evil.
Which in a sense would expose him,
Yeah.
and the way how he hangs on in the end to try and say like, no, you've got it all wrong.
I still think he's a good character. Out of all of it, it's the most logical thing.
I would probably say he's...
He
He isn't good enough, but how high are we putting him?
I don't think he's king of the humans. No way.
No, he's not king of the humans by stretch. He's not even a great companion. He's just good enough.
But
How high is he?
I'd say he's potentially above all this lot.
Really?
In terms, it depends what we're talking about. In terms of character motivation, he's got the best motivation.
He has got the best motivation.
He's got the most logical, sane motivation out of any of these characters.
He's just there, I think.
That'll do, yeah.
Not above John Goodman, because he is, of course, the one who finds out all of this.
And technically speaking, yes, he's also on the same side as him, because if it had it his way, he would want to destroy them all as well.
Yes.
He would go
Through
down
government funding,
Yeah,
which, of course, he
to wipe
kept
them
getting
out.
rejected from.
Because like he kept saying, if we just keep our heads buried, they're going to come back and take the Earth, and he wanted to prevent that by discovering them first and then having them obliterated.
Very true.
So they've got the same motivation, only that Walter Simmons actually managed to actually create something.
So we will have to wait and see. It's currently a Wednesday. We are seeing Godzilla Kong on Saturday. By the time this video comes out, it will probably be done by then. We'll probably have seen it by
Won't
then.
take you long to edit this together.
But guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you like the tier list, you can find it on the tiermaker.com website. It should be public by now. So if you want to do it yourself and show me what you would put in that, leave it for the comments below. We will catch you in the next one.
Sweet as.
See you then.
See you later.